Looking at the dust of the cart, I sigh with regret.
「胡闻背后一人问曰：温侯何不从太师去？乃在此遥望而发叹。不视之，乃司徒王允也。相见毕，允曰：老夫日来阴染微恙，闭门不出。
Suddenly I heard someone behind me asking, "Why don't Marquis Wen go from the imperial palace and just look here and sigh from a distance?" It was Situ Wang Yun who looked at him. After meeting each other, Yun said, "I have been staying behind closed doors because of a slight illness these days."
故久未得与将军一见，今日太师驾归没误，只得服病出送，却喜得误将军。请问将军为何在此长叹？不曰：正为宫女耳。允阳惊曰：
Therefore, I have not been able to see the general for a long time. Today, the Grand Master is returning to Shiwu. He has to help the sick and send him away, but he is happy to meet the general. May I ask, General, why are you sighing here? Bu said, "It is the ear of a male and a female." Yun pretended to be surprised and said,
许多时上谓与将军耶布曰：老贼自宠幸久矣。允阳大惊曰：不信有此事，不将前事一一告允。允仰面跌足，半晌不语，良久，乃言曰：
It has been a long time since I told General Jebu. The old thief has been favoring himself for a long time. Yun pretended to be shocked and said, "I don't believe this is happening." Bu told Yun everything he had done before. Yun fell on his back and was silent for a long time. After a long time, he said,
不义太师作此禽兽之行，因晚不守约，且到寒舍商议，不随允归。允言入密室，置酒款待，不又将凤仪亭相遇之事细述一遍。允曰：
Unexpectedly, the Grand Master behaved like a beast, so he rolled up his cloth and said, "Let's go to the humble house to discuss." Bu returned with Yun. Yun Yen entered the secret room and set out wine to entertain him. Bu then described the encounter in Fenjiiting in detail. Yun said,
太师淫无之女，夺将军之妻，成为天下耻笑。非笑太师，笑允与将军耳。然允老迈无能之辈，不足为道。可惜将军盖世英雄，亦受此侮辱也。
The Grand Master raped my daughter and took the general's wife, which is the ridicule of the world. Instead of laughing at the Grand Master, I smiled at the general. However, it is not righteous to allow an old and incompetent person. It is a pity that the general is a great hero, and he is also humiliated by this.
不怒气冲天，拍案大叫。允即曰：老夫失语，将军息怒。不曰：是当杀此老贼，以雪无耻。允即掩其口曰：将军勿言，恐累及老夫。
Bu was so angry that he slapped the table and shouted. Yun said anxiously, I am speechless, General, calm down. Bu said, I swear to kill this old thief to avenge my shame. Yun urgently covered his mouth and said, General, please don't say anything, for fear of hurting me.
不曰：大丈夫生居天地间，岂能郁郁久居人下？允曰：以将军之才，诚非董太师所可限制。不曰：吾欲杀此老贼，乃是父子之情。
Bu said, How can a man live in heaven and earth and live in depression for a long time? Yun said, With the talent of a general, it is beyond the control of Grand Master Dong. Bu said, I want to kill this old thief, but it is the love between father and son.
恐惹后人议论，允微笑曰：将军自姓吕，太师自姓董。知己之时，岂有父子情也？不愤然曰：非司徒言，不己自误。允见其意已决。
Afraid of provoking future generations' comments, Yun smiled and said, The general's surname is Liu, and the Grand Master's surname is Dong. When throwing a halberd, how can there be any father-son affection? Bu Fenren said, It's not Situ's words, but Buji made a mistake. Seeing that his mind has been decided.
便说之曰：将军若服汉室，乃忠臣也，青史传名，流芳百世；将军若助董卓，乃反臣也，载之史笔，遗臭万年。不必席下拜曰：不议已决。
Then he said, If a general helps the Han dynasty, he is a loyal minister. His name will be passed down in history and will be famous for centuries. If a general helps Dongjua, he is a traitor. His history will be remembered for thousands of years, decided.
司徒误以允曰：但恐事或不成，反招大祸。不拔带刀，次必出谢为是。允跪谢曰：汉嗣不斩，皆出将军之赐也，切勿泄露，临期有计。
Situ Wui said, But I'm afraid that if things don't work out, it will lead to disaster. Bu pulled out the knife and stabbed his arm to bleed as an oath. Yin knelt down and thanked him, saying, If the Han dynasty sacrifices are not executed, it is all because of the general's gift. Don't let it out. There is a plan before the deadline.
自当相报，不凯诺而去。允即请仆射使孙睿、司隶校尉黄琬商议。睿曰：方今主上有急心欲，可遣一能言之人， 往梅坞请着议事。
I should repay Bu's promise and leave. Yun immediately asked Sun Rui, the servant archer, and Huang Wan, the captain of Silly School, to discuss the matter. Rui said, "Now that your majesty is recovering from an illness, you can send someone who can speak to Shiwu to ask Shua to discuss the matter."
一面以天子密诏复吕布使伏甲兵于朝门之内，引着入诛之，此上策也。婉曰：何人敢去？睿曰：吕布同郡骑都尉李肃，以董卓不迁其官。
On the one hand, a secret edict from the emperor was sent to Lu Bu to send armored soldiers inside the imperial gate, and to lure Zhua in to execute him. This was the best strategy. Wan said, "Who dares to go?" Rui said, "Lu Bu and Li Su, the commander of cavalry in the same county, thought that Dong Zhuo would not move his official position."
甚是怀怨，若令此人去，卓必不疑。允曰：善。请吕布共议。不曰：昔日劝吾杀丁建阳，亦此人也。今若不去，吾先斩之。
If you let this person go, if you have any grudge, Zhuo will not doubt it. Yun said, "Good. Please discuss with Lu Bu." Bu said, "In the past, I was advised to kill Ding Jianyang. This is the same person. If you don't go now, I'll kill him first."
使人密请肃之布曰：昔日公说不使杀丁建阳而投董卓，今卓上欺天子，下虐生灵，罪恶贯盈，人神共愤。公可传天子诏往梅坞，宣卓入朝。
The envoy secretly asked Su to Bu and said, "In the past, I told you that Bu envoy killed Ding Jianyang and defected to Dongzhuo. Now Zhuo has bullied the emperor and tortured all living beings. He has committed many sins and made people and gods angry. You can send an edict from the emperor to Shiwu and announce Zhuo's entry into the dynasty."
伏兵诛之，立服汉室，共作忠臣。尊意若何？肃曰：我意欲除此贼久矣，恨无同心者耳。今将军若此，是天赐也，肃岂敢有二心？
They used the power of ambushes and executioners to support the Han dynasty and became loyal ministers together. What do you think? Su said, "I have wanted to get rid of this thief for a long time, and I hate those who don't share the same mind. If the general is like this, it is a gift from God. How dare you have two minds?"
遂舌剑为士允曰：公若能干此事，何患不得显官？次日，李肃引10数骑前到梅坞，人报天子有诏，卓教唤入。李肃入拜，卓曰：
Then he broke his arrow and swore an oath, saying, "If you can do this, Why don't you worry about not showing up as an official? The next day, Li Su led 10 horses to Shiwu. People report to the emperor that there is an edict, and Zhujiao calls him in. Li Su came to worship. Zhua said,
天子有何诏诉曰：天子并体新权，欲会文武于未央殿，亦将禅位于太师，故有此诏。卓曰：王允之意若何？肃曰：
What is the emperor's edict? Su said, the emperor has recently recovered from his illness. He wants to meet civil and military officials in Weiyang Hall and proposes to place Zen in the Taisher, so he issued this edict. Zhua said, What does Wang Yun mean? Su said,
王司徒已命人祝寿善台旨等主公到来。卓大喜曰：吾夜梦一龙照身，今日果得此喜信，实哉不可失。便命心腹将李榷、郭汜、张继。
Wang Situ has ordered people to build a meditation platform to wait for the arrival of the Lord. Zhuadashi said, I dreamed about a dragon covering me at night, and today I got this good news. The time is too good to lose. He ordered his confidants Li Ju and Guosi, Zhang Ji.
樊稠4人领飞熊军3000守梅务，自己即日排驾回京，故谓李肃曰：吾为帝，汝当为之今吾。肃拜谢称臣。着入辞其母，母时年90余矣。问曰：
Fan Chou and his 4 men led 3,000 Feixiong troops to guard Shiwu. He then drove back to the capital that day. Gu said to Li Su, I am the emperor, and you should be the one who holds Jinwu. Zhuoru resigned from his mother. My mother, who was more than 90 years old, asked, "
吾儿何往？"卓曰："儿将往受汉禅，母亲早晚为太后也。"母曰："吾近日肉产心惊，恐非吉兆。"卓曰："将为国母，岂不欲有惊报？"
My son, he went to Zhua and said, My son will receive Han Zhen, and my mother will become the queen mother sooner or later. My mother said, I've been feeling trembling and frightened lately. I'm afraid it's not a good sign. Zhua said, as the mother of the country, wouldn't I expect a surprise?
"遂辞母而行临行，谓貂蝉曰："吾为天子，当立汝为贵妃。"貂蝉以明之就礼，假作欢喜拜谢。着出上车，前遮后拥，往长安来。
Then he said goodbye to his mother and left, saying to Diao Chan, I am the emperor, and I will make you a noble concubine. Diao Chan already knew that she was coming, so she pretended to be happy and thanked her. Zhua got out of the dock and got into the car, covering the front and back, hoping that Chang'an would come.
行不到30里所乘之车，忽折一轮，着下车乘马。又行不到10里，那马咆哮嘶喊，掣断辔头。着问宿曰：车折轮，马断辔，其兆若何？宿曰：
After traveling less than 30 miles, the chariot he was riding suddenly turned around, and Zhuo got out of the car and rode on his horse. After traveling less than 10 miles, the horse roared and neighed, and the bridle was broken. Zhuo asked Su, "What are the signs of a broken wheel and a broken horse's bridle?" Su said,
"乃太师应少汉禅弃旧换新，将成欲辇金安之兆也。着喜而信其言。次日正行间，忽然狂风骤起，昏雾蔽天。着问宿曰：此何祥也？
This is a sign that the Grand Master should abandon the old and replace the old with the new in response to Shao Han Chan, and that he will ride in a jade chariot with a golden saddle. Zhuo was delighted and believed what he said. The next day, while we were walking, a strong wind suddenly blew up and the sky was covered with mist. Zhuo asked Su, "How auspicious is this?"
Su曰：主公登龙位，必有红光紫雾，以壮天威耳。着又喜而不已。既至城外，百官俱出迎接，只有李儒抱病在家，不能出迎。着进至相府。
Su said, "When my lord ascends the throne of the dragon, there will be red light and purple mist, which will amplify the sky and make the ears powerful." Zhuoyu was delighted but had no doubts. As soon as they arrived outside the city, all the officials came out to greet him. Only Li Ru was sick at home and could not go out to greet him. Zhuo Jin arrived at the Prime Minister's mansion.
吕布入贺卓曰：吾登95，汝当总督天下兵马。布拜谢，就帐前歇宿。是夜有10数小儿于郊外作歌，风吹歌声入帐。歌曰：千里草。
Lu Bu came to Zhuo and said, "When I ascend the 9th 5-year plan, you will be the governor of the world's troops." Bu thanked him and rested in front of his tent. That night, there were dozens of children composing songs in the suburbs, and the wind blew the songs into the tents. The song goes, "Thousands of miles of grass."
"何清经10日补，不得生。歌声悲切。着问李肃曰：童谣主何吉凶？肃曰：亦只是言流世灭，董世兴之意。次日清晨，
He Qingqing's 10-day divination revealed that he will not be born. The song was sad. Zhuo asked Li Su, "What is the good or bad thing about the nursery rhyme master?" Su said, "It just means that the Lu family will be destroyed and the Dong family will be reborn." The next day it was dawn.
董卓摆列仪从入朝，忽见一道人，青袍白巾，手执长杆，上腹部1丈，两头各书一口字。卓问肃曰：“此道人何意？”肃曰：
When Dong Zhuo was setting up the ceremony, he suddenly saw a man in a green robe and a white scarf. He was holding a long pole, with a 10-foot-long cloth tied on it, and the word written on each end. Zhuo asked Su, "What does this Taoist mean?" Su said,
乃新样之人，也呼将士驱去。卓进朝，群臣各具朝服，营业于道。李肃手执宝剑，扶车而行。到北掖门，军兵尽挡在门外，独有御车20余人同入。
The sick man also called for the soldiers to be driven away. When Zhuo entered the court, all the ministers in court uniforms came to greet him. Li Su held the sword in his hand and supported the chariot. When he arrived at Bay Gate, all the soldiers were blocking the door. Only the royal chariot with more than 20 people entered together.
董卓、姚建、王允等各执宝剑，立于殿门，惊问肃曰：“持剑是何意？”肃不应，推车直入。王允大呼曰：“反贼至此，武士何在？”两旁转出100余人。
When Dong Zhuo saw Wang Yun and others standing at the palace gate holding swords, he asked Su in shock, "What does holding the sword mean?" Su responded and pushed the cart straight in. Wang Yun shouted, "The rebels are here, where are the warriors?" More than 100 people turned out on both sides.
持戟挺硕刺之着中甲不入，伤臂坠车，大呼曰：“吾儿奉先何在？”吕布从车后厉声出曰：“有诏讨贼！”一鼓直刺咽喉，李肃早割头在手。
Zhuo, who was holding a halberd and holding a spear, missed his armor, hurt his arm and fell from the chariot. He shouted, "Where is my son Fengxian?" Lu Bu came out from behind the chariot and shouted loudly, "There is an edict to punish thieves." A drum pierced the throat. Li Su had already cut off his head.
吕布左手持戟，右手怀中取诏，大呼曰：“奉诏讨贼臣董卓，其余不问。”姜立皆呼万岁。后人有诗叹董卓曰：“霸业成实为帝王。”
Lu Bu held the halberd in his left hand and took the imperial edict in his right hand. He shouted, "I have been ordered to attack Dong Zhuo, the traitor, and don't ask about the rest." The generals all shouted long live. Later generations wrote a poem praising Dong Zhuo, saying, "When he succeeds in his domination, he becomes an emperor."
不成且作富家郎，谁知天意无私取，没物方成已灭亡。却说当下吕布大呼曰：“助卓为虐者，皆礼如也。” 谁可擒之？李肃应声愿往。
If he fails, he will become a rich man. Who knows that God's will is selfless, and Shiwu will be destroyed? But at that moment, Lu Bu shouted, "Those who help Zhua and abuse him are all Li Ru. Who can capture him?" Li Su responded and was willing to go.
忽听朝门外发喊人报，李儒家奴已将李儒绑缚来献。王允命夫妇是曹斩之，又将董卓尸首号令通衢。卓师肥胖，看食军士，以火置其中为灯。
Suddenly I heard a call from outside the imperial court to report that Li Ru's slaves had bound Li Ru to be sacrificed. Wang Yun ordered Fu to go to the city to kill Chao. He also took Dong Zhuo's body and ordered it to pass through the thoroughfare. Zhuo's corpse was obese. The soldier who looked at the corpse placed fire in his navel as a lamp.
高流满地，百姓过者，莫不手至其头，足见其尸。王允又命吕布同黄甫松、李肃领兵5万，至梅务抄集董卓家产人口。却说李榷、郭汜。
The anointing flowed all over the ground, and people who passed by would throw their hands at their heads and trample on their corpses with their feet. Wang Yun also ordered Lu Bu, Huang Fu Song, and Li Su to lead 50,000 troops to Shiwu to copy Dong Zhuo's family property and population. But he said that Li Ju, Guosi,
「张继樊筹闻董卓已死，吕布将至，便引了飞熊军连夜奔凉州去了。吕布至梅务，先取了貂蝉。黄甫松命将坞中所藏良家子女进行释放。
Zhang Ji and Fan Chou heard that Dong Zhuo was dead and Lu Bu was approaching, so he led the Flying Bear army to Liangzhou overnight. When Lu Bu arrived at Shiwu, he first took Diao Chan. Huangfu Song ordered all the children of good families hidden in the dock to be released.
但系董卓亲属不分老幼，悉皆诛戮。卓母亦被杀。卓弟董民、侄董黄皆斩首号令。收集坞中所需，黄金数十万，白金数百万，绮罗、珠宝、器皿。
But Dong Zhuo's relatives, old and young, were all killed. Zhuo's mother was also killed. Zhuo's younger brother Dong Min and nephew Dong Huang both ordered their heads to be beheaded. There are hundreds of thousands of gold and millions of platinum stored in the collection dock. Chilua, jewelry, utensils.
粮食不计其数，回报王允。允乃大犒军士，设宴于都堂，召集众官，酌酒称庆。正饮宴间，忽人报曰：“董卓暴尸于市。”
There is countless food. Return to Wang Yun. Yun Nai rewarded the sergeants, held a banquet in the Capitol Hall, gathered all the officials, and drank wine to celebrate. During the banquet, someone suddenly reported, Dong Zhuo's body was found in the market.
忽有一人扶其尸而大哭允怒曰：“董卓伏诛，市民莫不称贺。此何人独敢哭也？”遂唤武士与吴秦来，须秦至，众官见之，无不惊骇。
Suddenly there was a man lying on his corpse, crying loudly and saying angrily, Dong Zhuo has been executed, and the soldiers and the people all congratulated him. Who dares to cry alone? Then he called the warriors, Come with me to capture him. He was captured in a moment. When all the officials saw this, they were all horrified.
原来那人不是别人，乃是中蔡邕也。允斥曰：“董卓逆贼，今日伏诛，国之大幸。汝为汉臣，乃不为国庆，反为贼哭，何也？”邕服罪曰：
It turned out that the man was none other than the servant Kai Yong. Yun scolded, Dong Zhuo's rebel traitor is executed today. It is a great blessing for the country. You are a Han official, but instead of celebrating the national day, you cry for the thief. Why? Yong Fuzue said.
邕虽不才义之大义，岂肯背国而向卓？只因一时之欲之感，不觉为之一哭，自知罪大。愿公见援，倘得请守越族，使续成汉史，以赎其辜。
Although Yong is not talented, but he knows the great righteousness, how can he be willing to turn his back on the country and go to Zhuo? Just because he knew the feeling of encounter for a moment, he cried for it without realizing it, and he knew that he was guilty of a big crime. May the public see the truth. If he gets his head tattooed and his feet cut off, he will continue to do so. The history of the Han dynasty was made to atone for his wrongdoing.
邕之幸，也众官悉邕之才，皆力救之。太傅马密第密谓允曰：“伯皆旷世一才，若是续成汉史，成为盛世，且其孝行肃著，若惧杀之。”
Fortunately for Yong, all the officials cherished Yong's talents and tried their best to save him. Taifu Marixi also secretly said to Yun, Boja is an outstanding talent. If he continues to make history in the history of the Han dynasty, it will be a great event. Moreover, he has a long history of filial piety. If he is killed suddenly, it will be a great event.
孔诗人望允曰：“奚孝武不杀司马迁，后史作史，遂至谤书流于后世。方今国运衰微，朝政错乱，不可令佞臣执笔于右主左右。”
Afraid of losing people, Wang Yun said, In the past, Xiaowu did not kill Sima Qian, but later sent him to write history, which caused the slanderous book to be circulated to later generations. Now that the country's fortunes are declining and the government is in chaos, we cannot let the sycophants ride around the young master.
使吾等蒙其善意，也日低无言而退。斯谓众官曰：“王允其无后乎？”善人，国之计也；制作，国之典也。灭迹废典，岂能久乎？
After being criticized by him, we retreated without saying a word, and privately said to all the officials, "The king allows him to have no heirs." A good man is the discipline of the country, making is the code of the country. How can it last long if the discipline and code are destroyed?
当下王允不听马密低之言，命将蔡邕下狱中缢死。一时士大夫闻者，尽为流涕。后人论蔡邕之苦董卓，故自不仕，允之杀之，亦为以甚。有诗叹曰：
At that time, Wang Yun refused to listen to Marixi and ordered Cai Yong to be hanged in prison. When the scholar bureaucrats heard about it, they burst into tears. Later generations said that it was not true that Cai Yong cried for Dongzhuo, and that it was too much for him to kill Dongzhuo if he allowed him to. There is a poem that sighs.
董卓专权似不仁事中，何自敬王身？当时诸葛笼中卧，安肯轻身是乱臣？且说李榷、郭汜、张继、樊稠逃居陕西，使人至长安上表求赦。
Why did Dongzhuo die while serving under his dictatorial power and unkindness? At that time, Zhuge Long was lying in bed, and Ankin took care of his troubled ministers. It is said that Li Ju, Guo Si, Zhang Ji, and Fan Chou fled to Shaanxi and sent people to Chang'an to petition for mercy.
王允曰：“卓之跋扈，皆此4人助之。今虽大赦天下，独不赦此4人。”使者回报李榷，却曰：“求赦不得，各自逃生可也。”谋士贾诩曰：
Wang Yun said, Zhuo's domineering behavior was aided by these 4 people. Although the world is now being pardoned, these 4 people will not be pardoned. The envoy reported back to Li Ju. Ju said, "If you can't ask for forgiveness, you can escape each other." Counselor Jia Su said,
诸君若弃军单行，则一庭长能复军矣。不若诱集陕人并本部军马，杀入长安，与董卓报仇。是计奉朝廷以正天下，若其不胜，走亦未迟。
If you abandon the army and go alone, a pavilion commander can restrain you. It is better to lure the Shaanxi people and the army and horses into Chang'an to avenge Dongzhuo. Serve the emperor and serve the court to rectify the world. if he is defeated, it is not too late to leave.
却等然其说，遂流言于西凉州曰：“王允将欲喜当此方之人矣。”众皆惊惶，乃复扬言曰：“徒死无益，能从我反乎？”众皆愿从。
Zhu et al. Then spread the word in Xiliang Prefecture. General Wang Yun wants to cleanse the people here. Everyone was frightened. Then he threatened and said, "It is useless to die as a disciple. How can you follow me and rebel?" Everyone was willing to follow.
于是聚众10余万分作4路，杀奔长安来。路逢董卓女婿中郎将牛辅，引军5000人，欲去与丈人报仇。李榷便与合兵，使为前驱。4人陆续进发。
So they gathered more than 100,000 people and divided them into 4 groups to rush to Chang'an to kill them. On the way, I met Dongzhuo's son-in-law Zhonglang General Niu Fu, who led an army of 5,000 people. He wanted to avenge his father-in-law, so Li Ju joined forces and sent him as the vanguard. The 4 of them set off one after another.
Wang Yun 听知西凉兵来与吕布商议，不曰：“司徒放心，量此鼠辈，何足鼠也？”遂引李肃将兵出敌。肃当先迎战，正与牛辅相遇，大杀一阵。
Wang Yun heard that soldiers from Xiliang came to discuss with Lu Bu. Bu said, "Situ, don't worry. How can we count these rats?" Then he led Li Su to lead his troops out of the enemy. Su Dang was the first to fight, and when he met Niu Fu, they killed him.
牛辅抵敌，不过败阵而去。不想是夜2更，牛辅乘宿不备，竟来劫寨。肃军乱窜，败走30余里，折军大半，来见吕布，不大怒曰：
Niu Fu could not resist the enemy and was defeated. Unexpectedly, it was the second watch of the night, and Niu Fu was unprepared and came to rob the stronghold. Su's army fled in disorder and was defeated for more than 30 miles. Most of the army was lost. When they came to see Lu Bu, Bu said angrily,
如何错无锐气，遂斩李肃，悬头军门。次日，吕布进兵与牛辅对敌，量牛辅如何敌得吕布，仍复大败而走。是夜，牛辅唤心腹人胡赤儿商议曰：
"How can you dampen my spirit and kill Li Su? I hang my head in front of the army." The next day, Lu Bu marches in to confront Niu Fu. I guess how Niu Fu can defeat Lu Bu, but he is still defeated and leaves. That night Niu Fu called his confidant Hu Chi'er to discuss say.
吕布骁勇万不能敌，不如瞒了李榷等4人，暗藏金珠，与亲随3、5人弃军而去。胡赤儿应允，是夜收拾金珠，弃营而走，随行者3、4人。
Lubu is brave and invincible. Why not hide it from Li Ju and the other 4, hide the gold pearls, and abandon the army with 3 or 5 of his followers? Hu Chi'er agreed. That night he gathered up the gold beads, abandoned the camp and left, accompanied by 3 or 4 people.
江渡一河，赤儿欲谋取金珠，竟杀死牛辅，将头来献吕布。不问其情由，从人出手，胡赤儿谋杀牛辅，夺其金宝。不怒，即将赤儿诛杀。
Chi'er, who was about to cross a river, wanted to get the gold pearl, but he killed Niu Fu and offered his head to Lu Bu. When Bu asked about the reason, he said, Hu Chi'er murdered Niu Fu and took away his gold treasure. Bu was angry and was about to kill Chi'er.
"领军前进，正迎着李榷军马。吕布不等他列阵，便挺起跃马，挥军直冲过来。却军不能抵挡，退走50余里，依山下寨，请郭汜、张济烦筹共议。
The leading army advanced to meet Li Ju's army and horses. Lu Bu didn't wait for him to form a formation. He raised his halberd and leaped on his horse, and his troops rushed towards him. The Jew army could not resist, so they retreated more than 50 miles and moved down the mountain to the stronghold. They invited Guosi, Zhang Ji, and Fan Chou to discuss the matter together.
曰：吕布虽勇，然而无谋，不足为虑。我引军守住谷口，每日诱他厮杀。郭将军可领军超击其后，效彭越挠楚之法，鸣金进兵，擂鼓收兵。仗
He said, although Lu Bu is brave, he has no plan, so there is nothing to worry about. I will lead the army to guard the mouth of the valley and lure him to fight every day. General Guo can lead the army to attack behind him. He will imitate Peng Yu's method of harassing Chu. He marches with gold and beats drums to withdraw his troops. Zhang.
樊二公却分兵2路，径取长安。彼首尾不能救应，必然大败。重用其计。却说吕布勒兵到山下，李榷引军搦战，布愤怒冲杀过去。
However, Duke Fan divided his troops into 2 groups and took the route to Chang'an. If the leader and the tail cannot come to the rescue, they will inevitably be defeated. Everyone used their tactics. But when Lu Bu's troops arrived at the foot of the mountain, Li Ju led his troops to fight. Bu rushed over in anger.
"却退走上深山上，矢石如雨，步军不能进。忽报郭汜在阵后杀来， 不及回战。只闻鼓声大震，四军已退。布方欲收军，锣声响处，却军又来。
Zhu retreated up the mountain, and the mountains were filled with arrows and rocks, but the Bu army could not advance. Suddenly it was reported that Guosi was coming from behind the formation, and he rushed back to fight. I heard the loud sound of drums, and the Xi army had retreated. Bu Fang wanted to withdraw his troops, but at the sound of gongs, Zhu's army came again.
未及对敌背后，郭汜又领军杀到，及至吕布来时，却又擂鼓收军去了。激得吕布怒气填胸，一连如此几日，欲战不得，欲止不得，正在恼怒。
Before reaching the enemy's rear, Guosi led his troops to attack again. When Lu Bu came, he beat the drums and retreated. Lu Bu was so angry that he filled his chest with anger. For several days in a row, I couldn't stop fighting and couldn't stop. Is angry.
忽然飞马报来说，张继、樊稠两路军马竟犯长安，京城危急，不及领军回，背后李榷、郭汜杀来，不无心恋战，只顾奔走，折了好些人马。
Suddenly, Pegasus reported that Zhang Ji and Fan Chao's troops had invaded Chang'an, and the capital was in danger. Bu Ji led his army back, but Li Ju and Guosi came to kill him behind him. Bu was not interested in fighting. He just ran around and lost many men and horses.
比及到长安城下，贼兵云屯雨集，围定城池，步军与战不利。军士为吕布暴力，多有降贼者，不心甚忧。数日之后，董卓与党李蒙。
When the rebels arrived at Chang'an city, they gathered in Yantunyu and surrounded the city. The troops deployed were at a disadvantage in the battle. The sergeants were afraid of Lu Bu's violence, and there were many thieves who wanted to surrender, which made him very worried. A few days later, Dong Zhuo's remaining party members Li Meng,
王方在城中为贼内应，偷开城门，四路贼军一齐拥入。吕布左冲右突，拦挡不住，引数百骑往青锁门外，呼王允曰：“是急矣，请司徒上马。”
Wang Feng secretly opened the city gate for the thieves in the city, and the four thieves rushed in together. Lu Bu rushed left and right, unable to stop him, and led hundreds of riders to the outside of Qingsua Gate. He called to Wang Yun and said, "The situation is urgent. Please mount the horse, Situ."
同出关去，别图良策。允曰：“若蒙社稷之灵，得安国家，无之怨也；若不获矣，则允奉身以死，临难苟免，无不为也。为我谢关东诸公。”
Let's go out together and find a good plan. Yun said, if by the spirit of Sheiji, I can secure the country, that is my wish. If not, then I will sacrifice myself and die. I will not avoid it when faced with difficulties. Thank you all the Dukes of Guangdong for me.
奴隶以国家为念，吕布再三相劝，王允只是不肯去。不一时，各门火焰竞天，吕布只得弃却家小，引100余骑飞奔出关，投袁术去了。李确
Although Lu Bu tried to persuade him with the country in mind, Wang Yun just refused to go. After a while, all the sects were in flames. Lu Bu had no choice but to abandon his family and lead more than 100 cavalry to fly out of the pass and join Yuan Shu. Li Ju.
郭汜纵兵大掠太常卿种福、太仆鲁奎、大鸿胪周焕、城门校尉崔烈、乐骑校尉王齐皆死于国难。贼兵围绕内廷至极，侍臣请天子上宣平门止乱。
Guo Si sent troops to plunder Taichang Qing Zhongfu, Taichang Lu Kuei, Dahongla Zhou Huan, Qingmen School Captain Cui Lai, and Yueqi School Captain Wang Qi all died in the national disaster. The thieves and soldiers surrounded the inner court in a panic, and the courtiers asked the emperor to go to Zuanpingmen to stop the chaos.
李确等望见黄盖约驻军士，口呼万岁。献帝以楼问曰：“卿不后奏请，折入长安，意欲何为？”李确、郭汜仰面奏曰：
Li Ju and others saw Huang Gai holding the sergeant and shouted, "Long live!" Emperor Xian leaned against the building and asked, "You have come to Chang'an without waiting for invitation. What do you want?" Li Ju and Guo Si raised their heads and said,
董太师乃陛下社稷之臣，无端被王允谋杀，臣等特来报仇，非敢造反。但见王允，臣便退兵。王允实在地侧，闻之此言，奏曰：
Master Dong was a minister of His Majesty's State Council who was murdered by Wang Yun for no reason. I came here to take revenge and did not dare to rebel. But when I saw Wang Yun, I retreated. Wang Yun was at the emperor's side. Hearing this, he reported,
臣本为社稷济世以至此，陛下不可惜臣，以误国家。臣请下见二贼。帝徘徊不忍，允自宣平门楼上跳下楼去，大呼曰：“王允在此！”李确
My plan for the country has come to this point. Your Majesty does not regret that I have misled the country. I would like to see the two thieves. The emperor hesitated and couldn't bear it. Yun jumped down from the Xianping Gate Tower and shouted, "Wang Yun is here." Li Ju
郭汜拔剑叱曰：“董太师何罪而剑杀？”允曰：“董贼之罪，弥天亘地，不可胜言。”受诛之日，长安市民皆相庆贺，汝独不闻乎？却4曰
Guasi drew his sword and scolded, "What crime did Master Dong have to commit?" Yun said, "The crime of Dong Taisher is so great that it is unspeakable." On the day of his execution, the people of Chang'an all celebrated each other, but you didn't hear it? Ju and Si said.
"太师有罪，我等何罪？不肯相赦。”王允大骂：“逆贼何必多言？我王允今日有死而已。”二贼手起，把王允杀于楼下。史官有诗赞曰：
What crime do we have, if the Grand Master is guilty, and we are not willing to forgive him? Wang Yun cursed, "Why do you say so much, traitor? I, Wang Yun, will die today." The two thieves raised their hands and killed Wang Yun downstairs. A historian wrote a poem praising
王允运积仇，奸臣董卓休。心怀家国恨，美所庙堂忧。英气连霄汉，忠诚冠斗牛。至今魂已魄，犹绕凤凰楼。众贼杀了王允。
Wang Yun used the opportunity to recruit the treacherous minister Dong Zhuxiu. "I have hatred for my family and my country in my heart, and my eyebrows are furrowed and worried about the temple. Heroic and heroic, loyal to bullfighting. To this day, my soul and soul are still surrounding the Phoenix Tower." The thieves killed Wang Yun.
"一面又差人将王允宗族老幼进行杀害，市民无不下泪。当下李傕、郭汜寻思曰：“既到这里，不杀天子谋大事，更待何时？”便持剑大呼。
On the one hand, he sent people to kill all the young and old of Wang Yun's clan. The soldiers and the people all shed tears. At that moment, Li Ju and Guasi thought, "Now that we are here, if we don't kill the emperor for great things, how long will it take?" Then they held their swords and shouted.
"杀入内来正是，巨魁伏罪灾方息，从贼纵横祸又来。未知献帝性命如何？且听下文分解。第10回，秦王氏马腾举义。
It is precisely when you rush in, the giant leader will suppress the crime and the disaster will be over, and the thief will cause the disaster to come again. It is unknown how Xindi's life is. Let's listen to the explanation below. Chapter 10, Ma Teng's Righteous Deeds from the Qin Royal Family.
"报复仇，曹操兴师，却说李郭二贼欲弑献帝。张继烦愁谏曰：不可。今日若便杀之，恐众人不服， 不如仍旧奉之为主，传诸侯入关。
Cao Cao raised his army to avenge his father, but said that the two thieves Li and Guo wanted to kill Emperor Xian. Zhang Ji and Fan Chou admonished him, saying, "No. If I kill him today, I'm afraid everyone will not accept it. It's better to still serve him as the master and win the princes into the pass."
先去其羽翼，然后杀之，天下可图也。李、郭二人从其言，按主兵器。帝在楼上宣谕曰：“王允记诸，军马何故不退？”李却，郭汜曰：
If you remove its wings first and then kill it, the whole world will be able to conquer it. Li and Guo followed his words and held down their weapons. The emperor announced from upstairs, "Since Wang Yun has been killed, why don't the troops retreat?" Li Ju and Guo Si said,
臣等有功王室未蒙赐爵，故不敢退军。帝曰：“卿欲封何爵？”李、郭、张、樊四人各自写知衔献上，乐要如此官品，帝只得从之。
I and other meritorious royals have not been awarded titles, so they dare not retreat. The emperor asked, "What title do you want to grant?" Li, Guo, Zhang, and Fan each wrote their titles and presented them. They wanted such official titles, so the emperor had no choice but to follow it.
封李却为车骑将军、池阳侯领、司隶校尉贾节钺；郭汜为后将军、美阳侯贾节钺，统秉朝政；樊稠为右将军、万年侯；张继为骠骑将军、平阳侯，领兵屯弘农。
Li Ju was granted the title of Chariot General Qi Yangho, Sili Xiaowei Jiajiayu. Guo Si was made the Rear General Mayang Ho Jiajiayu, and he shared the government affairs. Fan Chou was made the Right General Wanianhao, and Zhang Ji was made Hussar General Pingyang Marquis. Led troops to garrison Hongnong.
其余李蒙、王方等各为校尉。然后谢恩领兵出城，又下令追寻董卓尸首，获得些零碎皮骨，以香木雕成形体，安凑停当，大设祭祀。
The rest, including Li Meng, Wang Fang, etc., are all school captains. Then he thanked him and led his troops out of the city. He also ordered the search for Dong Zhuo's body, obtained some fragments of skin and bones, carved the body out of fragrant wood, put it together, and held a large sacrifice.
用亡者衣冠棺椁，选择吉日，迁葬霉物。临葬之期，天降大雷雨，平地水深数尺，霹雳震开其棺，尸首提出关外。李却后情再葬，事业又复如是。
Use the king's clothes, coffin and coffin to choose an auspicious day and move the burial to Shiwu. Before the burial, there was a heavy thunderstorm, and the water was several feet deep on the ground. A thunderbolt shook the coffin open, and the body was lifted out of the coffin. Li Ju was buried again in Ho Ching, and it happened again that night.
3次改葬皆不能葬，灵皮碎骨，悉为雷火消灭。天之怒灼，可谓甚矣。且说李榷、郭汜既掌大权，残虐百姓，密遣心腹士弟左右，观其动静。
After 3 reburials, he could not be buried. The skin and bones were all destroyed by thunder and fire. The wrath of heaven is great. It's so great. Let's say that Li Ju and Guosi were in great power and brutally abused the people. They secretly sent their confidants to serve the emperor to watch his movements.
献帝此时举动惊急朝廷官员，并有2贼升降，因采人望，特宣诸郡入朝，封为太仆，统领朝政。一日，人报西凉太守马腾。
At this time, Emperor Xian acted as a court official, and was promoted and demoted by the 2 thieves. Because of his popularity, Zhu Jun was specially announced to enter the court as a servant and jointly lead the government. One day, someone reported to Ma Teng, the governor of Xiliang.
滨州刺史韩遂2将引军10余万杀奔长安来，声言讨贼。原来2将先曾使人入长安，结连侍中马宇、谏议大夫种绍、左中郎将刘范3人为内应。
General Han Sui, the governor of Bingzhou, led more than 100,000 troops to Chang'an to kill, claiming to punish the thieves. It turned out that the 2 generals had sent people to Chang'an first, and they had joined forces with the servant Ma Yu, the admonishment official Zhong Shao, and Zhou Zhonglang General Lu Fan as internal responders.
共谋贼党3人密奏献帝，封马腾为征西将军，韩遂为镇西将军，各受密诏，并力讨贼。当下李榷、郭汜、张继、樊稠闻2军将至。
The 3 conspirators secretly reported to the emperor and made Ma Teng the general of conquering the west and Han Sui the general of suppressing the west. They each received secret edicts and fought hard against the thieves. At that moment, Li Ju, Guosi, Zhang Ji, and Fan Chou heard that the second army was approaching.
一同商议御敌之策，谋士贾诩曰：“二军远来，只宜深沟高垒，坚守以拒之。不过100日，彼兵粮尽，必将自退，然后引兵追之，二将可擒矣。”
They were discussing strategies to defend against the enemy, and the counselor Jia Su said, "When the 2 armies come from far away, we should only defend them with deep ditches and high fortresses. In less than 100 days, the soldiers will run out of food and will retreat, and then they will lead their troops to pursue them. the general can be captured.
李蒙王方出曰：“此非好计，愿借精兵万人，力斩马腾、韩遂之头，献于麾下。”贾诩曰：“今若急战，必当败绩。”李蒙、王方齐声曰：
King Li Meng came out and said, "This is not a good plan. I would like to borrow 10,000 elite soldiers to behead Ma Teng and Han Sui immediately and offer them to my subordinates." Jia Su said, "If we fight now, we will definitely lose." Li Meng, Wang Fong said in unison.
若无二人败，情愿斩首；吾若战胜，公亦当书首级于我。许谓李榷、郭汜曰：“长安西200里周至山，其路险峻，可使张、樊两将军屯兵于此。”
If we are defeated, I would rather be beheaded. If I win, the prince will also lose his head and mine. Su said to Li Ju and Guasi, 200 miles west of Chang'an, the road to Mount Yu is steep and steep, which can make Zhang, General Fan and his 2 troops station troops here.
坚壁守之待李蒙、王方自引兵迎敌，可也。李榷、郭汜从其言，点15000人马与李蒙、王方。2人欣喜而去，离长安280里下寨。
It is okay to stand firm and wait for Li Meng and Wang Fong to lead their troops to meet the enemy. Li Ju and Guasi followed his words and ordered 15,000 men and horses to join Li Meng and Wang Fong. They left in joy and went to the stronghold 280 miles away from Chang'an.
西凉兵到2个引军营去，西凉军马拦路摆开阵势，马腾、韩遂连辔而出，指李蒙、王方骂曰：“反国之贼！谁去擒之？”言未决，
Xiliang's soldiers arrived and 2 leading troops came to greet them. Xiliang's army and horses blocked the road and set up their formation. Ma Teng and Han Sui came out together, pointed at Li Meng and Wang Fong and cursed, "Thieves who rebel against the country. Who is going to capture them?" He continued.
只见一位少年将军，面如冠玉，眼若流星，虎体猿臂，彪腹狼腰，手执长枪，坐骑骏马，从阵中飞出。原来那将及马腾之子马超，字孟起。
I saw a young general with a face like a crown jade, eyes like shooting stars, a tiger's body and ape's arms, a belly and a wolf's waist, holding a spear in his hand and riding a horse. He flew out of the formation. It turns out that the general Ma Chao, son of Ma Teng, was named Meng Qi.
年方17岁，英勇无敌。王方欺他年幼，跃马迎战。 战不到数合，早被马超一枪刺于马下。马超勒马便回，李蒙见王方刺死。
At the age of 17, he is brave and invincible. Wang Fong deceived him because he was young and jumped on his horse to fight. The battle was not even close, and Ma Chao had already stabbed him under the horse with a spear. Ma Chao reined in his horse and returned. Li Meng saw Wang Fong stabbed to death.
一骑马从马超背后赶来，超只作不知。马腾在阵门下大叫，背后有人追赶。声犹未绝，只见马超已将李蒙擒在马上。原来马超明知李蒙追赶。
A horseman came from behind Ma Chao. Chao didn't know what to do. Ma Ting shouted at the gate of the formation, "There is someone chasing you from behind." The sound continued, and Ma Chao was seen to have captured Li Meng on his horse. It turns out that Ma Chao knew Li Meng was chasing him.
却故意讹言，等他马进举枪刺来，超将身一闪，李蒙说个空，两马相并，被马超轻疏援臂，生擒过去。军士无主，望风奔逃。马腾、韩遂乘势追杀。
However, he deliberately delayed waiting for Ma Chao to come close and raise his spear to stab him. Chao jumped out of the way and Li Meng missed the target. The two horses collided with each other. Ma Chao relaxed his arms and captured him alive. The sergeant had no owner and ran away looking for the wind. Ma Teng and Han Sui took advantage of the situation to pursue and kill them.
大获胜捷，直逼隘口下寨，把李蒙斩首号令。李榷、郭汜听知李蒙、王方皆被马超杀了，方信贾诩有先见之明，重用奇计，指李会谨守关防。
After a great victory, he went straight to the pass and went down to the stronghold, and ordered Li Meng to be beheaded. When Li Ju and Guo Si heard that Li Meng and Wang Fong had been killed by Ma Chao, they believed that Jia Su had the foresight to reuse his plan and only care about guarding the pass.
由他诺战，并不出营。果然，西凉军未及2月，粮草俱乏，商议回军。恰好长安城中马与家童出手夹主与刘范、种绍、外连马腾、韩遂。
Let him fight without going out to meet him. Sure enough, Shiliang's army was short of food and grass in less than 2 months, so they discussed returning to the army. It happened that the first head of Ma Yu's family in Chang'an City was Lu Fan, Zhong Shao, and Ma Teng and Han Sui.
欲为内应等请李榷、郭汜大怒，尽收3家老少良剑斩于市，把3颗首级直来门前号令。马腾、韩遂见军粮已尽，内应又懈，只得拔寨退军。
Li Ju and Guasi were so angry that they wanted to be accomplices. They killed all three families, old and young, good and bad, and killed them in the city. They took the three heads and came to the door to give orders. Ma Teng and Han Sui saw that their army supplies had been exhausted and their internal response was leaked, so they had no choice but to withdraw from the camp.
李榷郭司令张继引军赶马腾，樊稠引军赶韩遂，西凉军大败。马超在后死战，杀退张继。樊稠去赶韩遂，看看赶上，相进陈仓。
Li Ju and Guasi ordered Zhang Ji to lead his army to drive Ma Teng, and Fan Chou to lead his army to drive Han Sui away. The Xiliang army was defeated. Ma Chao fought to the death and defeated Zhang Ji. Fan Chou went to catch up with Han Sui, and when he caught up with him, he approached Qinsong.
韩遂勒马向樊稠曰：“吾与公乃同乡之人，今日何太无情？”樊稠也勒住马达道：“上命不可违。”韩遂曰：“吾此来亦为国家耳。”
Han Sui reined in his horse and said to Fan Chou, "My father and I are from the same hometown. Why are you so ruthless today?" Fan Chou also reined in his horse and replied, "You must not disobey your orders." Han Sui said, "I am here to serve as the ear of the country."
公何相逼之甚也？樊稠听罢，拨转马头，收兵回寨，让韩遂去了。不提防李榷之旨礼别，见樊稠放走韩遂，回报其书。李榷大怒。
After hearing this, Fan Chou turned his horse's head, withdrew his troops and returned to the stronghold, letting Han Sui go. Li Bi, Li Ju's nephew, was not on guard. When he saw Fan Chou letting Han Sui go, he repaid his uncle. Li Ju was furious.
便与兴兵讨樊稠，假意曰：“目今人心未宁，频动干戈，甚为不便。不若设一宴，请张继、樊稠庆功，就席间擒仇斩之，毫不费力。”李榷大喜。
Jia Yi wanted to raise troops to attack Fan Chou and said, "Now the people are not at peace, and they are constantly fighting, which is very inconvenient. Why don't we hold a banquet and invite Zhang Ji and Fan Chou to celebrate their achievements? We can capture Chou and behead him without any effort." Li Ju was overjoyed.
便设宴请张继、樊稠二将，欣然赴宴。酒半阑，李榷忽然变色曰：“樊稠何故交通韩遂，预谋造反？”稠大惊，未及回言，只见刀斧手拥出。
Then a banquet was held for Zhang Ji and Fan Chou. The second general Xinran went to the banquet. Halfway through the wine, Li Ju suddenly changed his color and said, Why did Fan Chou communicate with Han Sui in order to plot a rebellion? Chou was shocked and didn't have time to reply. He saw swordsmen and axes coming out.
早把樊稠斩首于案下的张继俯伏于地。李榷扶起曰：“樊稠谋反，故而诛之。公乃吾之心腹，何须惊惧？”将樊稠军拨与张继管领。
Fan Chou had been beheaded under the case a long time ago, and Zhang Ji was so frightened that he fell to the ground. Li Ju helped him up and said, "Fan Chou conspired to rebel, so I will punish him. You are my confidant, why should you be afraid?" He assigned Fan Chou's army to Zhang Ji's command.
张继自回弘农去了。李榷、郭汜自战败西凉兵，诸侯莫敢水河。贾诩屡劝抚安百姓，接纳贤豪。自是朝廷微有生意，不想青州黄巾又起。
Zhang Ji returned to Hongnong. Li Ju and Guosi defeated the Xiliang soldiers. No prince dared to do anything. Jia Su repeatedly persuaded the people to appease the people and recruit virtuous men. Since the imperial court has little business, I don't want the Qingzhou yellow turban to rise again.
聚众数十万头目不等，劫掠良民。太仆朱俊保举一人，可破群贼。李榷、郭汜问是何人？朱俊曰：“要破山东群贼，非曹孟德不可。”李榷曰：
Hundreds of thousands of leaders gathered together to plunder good people. The servant Zhu Jun recommends one person who can defeat the group of thieves. Li Ju and Guosi asked who he was. Zhu Jun said, "To defeat the bandits in Shandong, Chao Mengde must do it." Li Ju said,
"孟德今在何处？"郡曰："现为东郡太守，广有军兵。若命此人讨贼，贼可克日而破也。"李榷大喜，星夜草诏，差人击往东郡。
"Where is Mengde now?" Jun said, "Now he is the governor of Dongjun, and he has many troops. If this person is ordered to beg a thief, the thief will defeat him." Li Ju was overjoyed. He issued an edict at starry night and sent someone to escort him to Dongjun. 命曹操与济北相报信一同破贼，操领了圣旨，会合报信，一同兴兵击贼于寿阳。报信杀入重地，为贼所害。操追赶贼兵，直到济北，降者数万。 He ordered Cao Cao and Jibei Prime Minister Bao Xian to defeat the bandits together. Chao received the imperial edict and joined Bao Xian to raise troops together to attack the bandits in Shouyang. Bao Xian entered a stronghold and was killed by thieves. Cao Cao pursued the rebels as far as Jibei, and tens of thousands of them surrendered.
操即用贼为前驱兵马到处，无不详顺。不过100余日，招安道降兵30余万，男女100余万口。操则精锐者号为青州兵，其余尽令归农。
Cao immediately used thieves as the vanguard to drive troops and horses everywhere, and all of them surrendered. In just over 100 days, more than 300,000 troops and more than 1 million men and women were recruited. The elite ones were selected and named Qingzhou soldiers, and the rest were ordered to return to the countryside.
操自此威名日重节书报到长安，朝廷加曹操为镇东将军。操在兖州招贤纳士，有叔侄2人来投操，乃颍川颍阴人，姓荀，名玉，字文若。
Since then, Cao Cao's reputation has been increasing, and the letter of victory has been reported to Chang'an. The imperial court appointed Cao Cao as the general of Shandong. Cao Cao is in Yenzhou, looking for talented people. 2 uncles and nephews came to join Cao Cao. They were from Yingyin and Yingchuan. Their surname was Sun, their given name was Yu, and their courtesy name was Wenruo.
荀滚之子，也就是袁绍，今弃少投操。操与大悦，曰：“此吾之子房也。”遂以为行军司马。其侄荀攸，字公达，海内名士，曾拜黄门侍郎。
Sun Kuei's son also had an old relationship with Yuan Shao, but now he abandoned Shao and joined Cao Cao. Cao said with great joy, "This is my ovary." So he thought he was a marching Sima. His nephew Sun Yu, whose courtesy name was Gongda, was a well-known figure in the country. He once worshipped Huangmen as a minister.
后弃官归乡，今与其叔同投曹操，操以为行军教授。荀彧曰：“某闻兖州有一贤士，今此人不知何在。”操问是谁，彧曰：“乃东郡东阿人，姓程。”
Later, he abandoned his official position and returned to his hometown. Now he and his uncle joined Cao Cao, who became a military professor. Sun Yu said, "I heard that there is a wise man in Yenzhou, but I don't know where he is." Cao asked who it was, and Yu said, "He is from Dong'a, Dongjun, with a surname of Cheng."
名誉字仲德。操曰：“吾亦闻名久矣。”遂遣人于乡中询问，访得他在山中读书，操拜请之。程昱来见，曹操大喜。欲谓荀彧曰：“
His name is Yu and his courtesy name is Zhongda. Cao Cao said, "I have been famous for a long time." So he sent people to the countryside to look for him. They found him studying in the mountains, and Cao Cao paid him a visit. Qing Yu came to see him, and Cao Cao was overjoyed. Yu said to Sun Yu,
某孤陋寡闻，不足当公之见。公之乡人姓郭，名嘉，字奉孝，乃当今贤士，何不罗而治之？欲蒙省曰：无机忘却。遂起操征聘郭嘉到兖州。
A certain person who is ignorant and ignorant is not worthy of being recommended to the public. The family's surname is Gua, his given name is Jia, and his given name is Feng Shao. He is a wise man today. Why not recruit him? Yu Meng said, I almost forgot. Then he recruited Gua Jia to Yenzhou.
《共论天下之事》，郭嘉见光武帝派子孙，淮南承德人，姓刘，名业，字子阳。操即聘业至，业又见二人，一个是山阳昌邑人，姓满，名宠，字伯宁。
Discussing the affairs of the world together. Gua Zhejian, a descendant of the direct sect of Guangwu, was born in Qingda, Huainan, with the surname Lu, given name Yi, and courtesy name Ziang. Qiao immediately hired Yi. Yi recommended two more people. One was from Chang'e, Shanyang, with a surname of Man, a given name of Chong, and a courtesy name of Boning.
“一个是武城人，姓吕，名乾，字子克。曹操亦素知这两个名誉，就聘为军中从事。满宠、吕乾共建一人，乃陈留平丘人，姓毛，名介，字孝先。
One is a native of Wucheng. His surname is Lu, his given name is Qian, and his given name is Zik. Cao Cao was also aware of these two reputations and hired him to serve in the army. Man Chong and Lu Qian jointly recommended one person, who was from Chenliapingqiu. His surname was Mao, his given name was Jia, and his given name was Shaoxian.
“曹操亦聘为从事，又有一将引军数百人来投曹操，乃泰山巨平人，姓于，名进，字文泽。操见其人弓马熟娴，武艺出众，命为典军司马。
Cao Cao also hired him to work. There was another general who led hundreds of troops to surrender to Cao Cao. He was from Juping in Mount Tai. His surname was Yu, his given name was Jin, and his courtesy name was Wenza. Cao Cao saw that he was proficient in bow and horse and had outstanding martial arts, so he was ordered to be the commander of the army.
“一日，夏侯惇引一大汉来见，操问何人，惇曰：“此乃陈留人，姓典，名为勇力过人。就跟张邈与帐下人不和，手杀数十人，逃窜山中。”
One day Xiahou Dun brought a large man to see him. Cao asked who he was. Dun said, "This is a man from Chenlu. His surname is Dian and his given name is Wei. He is very brave. He used to be with Zhang Miao. He was at odds with the people in his tent. He killed dozens of people and fled. In the mountains."
敦出射猎，见为主虎过涧，因收于军中。今特见之于公。操曰：吾观此人容貌魁梧，必有勇力。敦曰：他曾为有报仇杀人，提头直出闹市。
When Dun went out to hunt, he saw Wei Zhuhu crossing the stream, so he took it back to the army. Today I would like to recommend it to you. Xiao Qiao said, "I think this man has a tall appearance and must be brave." Dun said, "He once killed someone to avenge a friend, and he walked out of the busy city with his head raised."
数百人不敢进纸巾所使2只铁戟，重80斤，携之上马，运矢如飞。操即令为视之，为携戟骤马，往来驰骋。忽见帐下大旗为风所吹。
Hundreds of people did not dare to approach, but the 2 iron halberds he used today weighed 80 kilograms. They were carried by horses and carried like flying. Qiao immediately ordered Wei to test him. Wei held his halberd and rode his horse back and forth. Suddenly he saw the big flag under the tent being blown by the wind.
急欲导众军，是挟持不定。为下马，喝退众军，一手直定旗杆，立于风中，巍然不动。操曰：此古之恶来也。遂命为帐前都尉，解身上锦袄。
On the verge of being overthrown, the soldiers held him hostage. Wei dismounted his horse, shouted back the troops, held the flagpole in one hand, and stood tall and motionless in the wind. Xiao Qiao said, "This ancient evil is coming." Then he ordered him to be the captain in front of the tent, took off his brocade coat, and
即骏马雕鞍赐之，自是曹操部下文有谋臣，武有猛将，威震山东。乃遣泰山太守英绍往琅琊郡取附曹嵩。嵩自陈留避难，隐居琅琊。
And the horses were given carved saddles. Since Qiao Qiao's subordinates had advisors and fierce generals, they were powerful in Shandong. Then he sent Taishan prefecting Shao to Langia County to fetch his father Qiao Song. Song took refuge in Chenlu and lived in seclusion in Langia.
当日接了书信，便与弟曹德及一家老小40余人，带从者100余人，车100余辆，径往兖州而来。到经徐州，太守陶谦，字公祖，为人温厚纯笃。
After receiving the letter that day, he and his younger brother Chao Da and his family of more than 40 people including more than 100 followers and hundreds of vehicles, headed towards Yanzhou. Taoism passed through Shuzhou, and the prefect Tao Qian, named Gongzu, was a kind-hearted and honest man.
"项羽接纳曹操，正无其由。知操父经过，遂出境迎接，再拜致敬，大设筵宴，款待2日。曹宗要行，陶谦亲送出郭，特差都尉张凯。"
Xiang wanted to marry Cao Cao for no reason. Knowing that Cao Cao's father was passing by, he went out to greet him, paid homage to him again, and held a big banquet for 2 days. When Cao Song was about to leave, Tao Qian personally sent Guo off, and specially sent Captain Zhang Kai.
将步兵500护送曹嵩率家小行到华。废间，时夏末秋初，大雨骤至，只得投一谷寺歇宿。寺僧皆弱。松安顿家小，命张凯将军马屯于两廊。
He sent 500 soldiers to escort Cao Song and his family to Hua and Feijian. It was late summer and early autumn and heavy rain came, so he had to stay in an ancient temple. The monk accessed. Song settled his family in a small house and ordered General Zhang Kai to station his troops in the 2 corridors.
众军衣装都被雨打湿，同声皆怨。张凯唤手下头目于静处商议曰：“我们本是黄巾余党，勉强降顺陶谦，未有好处。如今曹家辎重车辆无数。”
All the soldiers' clothes were soaked by the rain, and they complained together. Zhang Kai called his subordinates to discuss in a quiet place and said, "We are originally a remnant of the Yellow Turbans. It is useless to force ourselves to surrender to Tao Qian. Now the Chao family has countless carriages."
你们欲得富贵，不难只就今夜3更，大家砍将入去，把曹嵩一家杀了，取了财物，同往山中落草。此计何如？众皆应允。是夜风雨未息。
If you want to get rich, it's not difficult for you. Just watch tonight. Everyone will go in, kill Cao Song's family, take the property, and go to the mountains together to drop grass. How about this plan? Everyone agreed. It was a stormy night and the rain had not stopped.
曹嵩正坐忽闻四壁喊声大举，曹德提剑出看，就被硕死。曹嵩忙引一切奔入方丈后，欲越墙而走，且肥胖不能出，松慌急，与妾躲于侧中。
Cao Song was sitting when he suddenly heard loud shouts from the 4 walls. Chowda took a look with his sword and was stabbed to death. Cao Song hurriedly lured a concubine into the abbot's house and wanted to escape over the wall. The concubine was fat and could not get out. Song panicked and hid with his concubine in the toilet.
"被乱军所杀英少死命逃脱，投袁绍去了。张凯杀尽曹嵩全家，取了财物，放火烧寺，与500人逃奔淮南去了。后人有诗曰：曹操奸雄世所夸。"
After being killed by the rebel army, Ying Shao escaped and surrendered to Yuan Shao. Zhang Kai killed Chao Song's entire family, took away their belongings, set fire to the temple, and fled to Huainan with 500 people. Later generations wrote a poem. Cao Cao is praised by the world as a treacherous hero.
曾将吕氏杀全家，如今何户逢人杀？天理循环报不差。当下英少部下有逃命的军士，报与曹操。操闻之，哭倒于地。众人救起。操切齿曰：
Once, the Lu family was killed, and now everyone in the household is being killed. The cyclical retribution of heaven is not bad. At this time, there were soldiers under Ying Shao who escaped and reported to Cao Cao. When Cao heard this, he fell to the ground crying. Everyone rescued him. Cao Jigna said,
陶谦纵兵杀吴父此仇，不共戴天。吴今西起大军，喜荡徐州，方雪无恨。遂留荀彧、程昱领军3万守鄄城、范县、东阿3县。
Tao Qian sent troops to kill my father. This is an irreconcilable hatred. I have now raised a large army to wash out Shuzhou. I hate Fang Xuewu. Sun Yu and Sheng Yu were left to lead an army of 30,000 to guard Wancheng, Fan County, and Dong'e County.
其余尽杀奔徐州来夏侯惇，于禁典为先锋。操令但得城池，将城中百姓进行屠戮，以血复仇。当有九江太守边让与陶谦交后。
The rest were killed and rushed to Shuzhou. Xiahou Dun, Eugene, and Dian Wei were the vanguard. Cao ordered, once you get the city, kill all the people in the city to avenge your father. When the governor of Zhejiang stepped aside and became friendly with Tao Qian.
闻知徐州有难，自引兵5000来救。操闻之大怒，使夏侯惇于路截杀之。时陈宫为东郡从事，亦与陶谦交后。闻曹操起兵报仇，欲尽杀百姓。
When he heard that Shuzhou was in trouble, he led 5,000 troops to rescue him. Cao Cao was furious after hearing this, and ordered Xiahou Dun to intercept and kill him on the road. At that time, Chen Gong worked for Dong Jun and was also on good terms with Tao Qian. When he heard that Cao Cao had launched an army to take revenge, he wanted to kill all the people.
星夜前来见曹操之事，为陶谦做说客，欲待不见，又灭不过旧恩，只得请入帐中相见。公曰：今闻明公以大兵临徐州，报尊父之仇。
Xingye came to see Cao Cao, knowing that he was working as a lobbyist for Tao Qian. He didn't want to see him, but he couldn't extinguish his old kindness, so he had to go to the tent to meet him. Gong said, Now I heard that Duke Ming came to Shuzhou with a large army to avenge his father.
所到欲尽杀百姓，某因此特来进言。陶谦乃仁人君子，非好利忘义之辈，尊父遇害，乃张凯之恶，非谦罪也。且州县之民与明公何仇？杀之不降。
He wanted to kill all the people wherever he went, so he came here to speak. Tao Qian was a benevolent gentleman, not a profit-seeking person. The murder of his respected father was Zhang Kai's fault, not Qian's fault. What hatred do the people of Qizhou and counties have against Duke Ming? Killing is ominous.
望三思而行，操怒曰：公昔弃我而去，今有何面目复来相见？陶谦杀无一家，是当摘胆剜心，以雪无恨。公虽为陶谦游说，其如无不听何？
Wang thought twice before acting and said angrily, My lord abandoned me in the past. How can I see you again now? Tao Qian killed my family and vowed to pluck out my gallbladder and heart to avenge my hatred. Although my lord persuaded Tao Qian, why don't I listen?
陈公辞出叹曰：无亦无面目见陶谦也。遂持马头陈留太守张邈去了。且说操大军所到之处，杀戮人民，发掘坟墓。陶谦在徐州。
Chen Gongzi sighed and said, I have no face to see Tao Qian. Then he galloped to join Zhang Miao, the prefect of Chenlu. Let's say that wherever Chao's army went, they killed people and dug up graves. Tao Qian is in Shuzhou.
闻曹操起军报仇，杀戮百姓，仰天痛哭曰：我获罪于天，致使徐州之民受此大难。即聚众官商议。曹豹曰：曹兵既至，岂可束手待死？
When he heard that Cao Cao had raised an army to avenge and kill the people, he looked up to the sky and cried, I have sinned against the sky, causing the people of Shuzhou to suffer such a disaster. All the officials hurriedly gathered to discuss. Cao Bao said, Now that Chao's soldiers have arrived, how can we just sit back and wait to die?
某愿助使君破之陶谦，只得引兵出营。远望操军如铺霜涌雪，中军竖起白旗二面，大书报仇雪恨四字。军马列成阵势，曹操纵马出阵，身穿缟素。
Tao Qian, who was willing to help the envoy to defeat him, had no choice but to lead his troops out to meet him. From a distance, he saw that the troops were covered with frost and snow. The Chinese army raised 2 white flags with the 4 characters, "Revenge," written in a big book. The army and horses formed a formation, and Cao Cao rode the horses out of the formation, wearing plain clothes.
扬鞭大骂陶谦，一出马于门旗下，欠身施礼曰：“谦本欲结好明公，故托张凯护送。不想贼心不改，致有此事。实不干陶谦之故，望明公察之。”
Raising his whip and scolding Tao Qian, he also stepped out under the banner of the gate. He bowed and saluted, saying, Qian originally wanted to befriend Ming Gong, so he asked Zhang Kai to escort him. He didn't want to be a traitor and not change his mind, which would lead to this. It's because of Tao Qian that he really doesn't want to do anything. Ming Gong will check it out.
操大骂曰：“老匹夫！杀无父，尚敢乱言！谁可生擒老贼？”夏侯惇应声而出，陶谦慌走入阵。夏侯惇赶来，曹豹挺枪跃马前来迎敌，两马相交。
Cao Cao cursed, "Old man! How dare you kill my father and talk nonsense? Who can capture the old thief alive?" Xiahou Dun responded. Tao Qian hurriedly walked into the formation. When Xiahou Dun arrived, Cao Bao leaped on his horse with his spear drawn and came to meet the enemy. 2 horses intersect.
忽然狂风大作，飞沙走石，两军皆乱，各自收兵。陶谦入城，与众计议曰：“曹兵是大难敌，吾当自负往操营，任其剖割。”
Suddenly a strong wind blew up sand and rocks. Both armies were in chaos and each retreated. Tao Qian entered the city and discussed with everyone, "Chao's army is too powerful to be defeated. I should tie myself up and go to Chao's camp and let him cut him apart."
以就徐州一郡百姓之命言未决，一人进前言曰：“辅军久镇徐州，人民感恩。今曹兵虽众，未能急破我城。辅军与百姓坚守勿出，某虽不才。”
The mission to save the people of a county in Shuzhou was not finished. One person came forward and said, "The Lord of Fu has been in Shuzhou for a long time, and the people are grateful. Although Chao's soldiers are numerous today, they cannot break our city immediately. The Lord of Fu and the people hold fast and do not go out, although a certain person not talented."
愿使小册教曹操，死无葬身之地。众人大惊，便问即将安出。正是本为那交反成怨，那知绝处有逢生。 毕竟此人是谁，且听下文分解。
Mei Shi shouts at teach Cao Cao to die without a burial place. Everyone was shocked and asked about the plan. It was exactly this. Originally, friendship turned into enmity, but one knows how to survive in a desperate situation. After all, who is this person? Let me explain below.
第11回，刘皇叔北海救孔融，吕文侯濮阳破曹操。飞鸽制作按飞鸽文学《三国演义》，却说献计之人，乃东海衢县人，姓糜，名竺，字子仲。
Chapter 11 Lu Huangshu Beihai rescued Kong Rong, Lu Wenho, and Puyang to defeat Cao Cao. Feigu production at Feigu literature, the romance of the three kingdoms, but it is said that the person who offered the advice was a native of Chu County, Donghai. His surname was Mi, his given name was Zhu, and his courtesy name was Zizhong.
此人家世富豪，常往洛阳买卖，乘车而回，路遇一美妇人，来求同在。主乃下车不行，让车与妇人坐。妇人请主同在，主上车端坐，目不斜视。
This rich man from a wealthy family went to Luoyang for business and was returning by car. On the way, he met a beautiful woman who came to ask for a ride. Zhu Nai got out of the car and walked, letting the woman sit in the car with her. The woman asked Zhu to accompany her. Zhu got into the car and sat upright without looking evilly.
行及数里，妇人辞去，临别对主曰：“我乃南方火德星君也，奉上帝教，往烧汝家。感君相待以礼，故名告君。君可速归，搬出财物，吾当夜来。”
After walking for a few miles, the woman resigned. She said to Zhu when she was leaving, I am Lord Huidexing of the South. I follow God's teachings and go to burn your house. I feel that you treat each other with courtesy, so I tell you clearly. You can return quickly and move out. Property. I'll come that night.
言讫不见主，大惊，飞奔到家，将家中所有急忙搬出。是晚果然厨中火起，尽烧其屋。主因此广舍家财，济贫拔苦，后逃迁聘为别驾从事。
After saying this, Zhu was shocked. He rushed home and hurriedly moved everything out of the house. That night, a fire broke out in the kitchen and burned down the whole house. Therefore, Zhu gave up his family wealth to help the poor and relieve their suffering. Later Tao Qian was hired as a driver.
当日献计曰：“某愿亲往北海郡，求孔融起兵救援。更得一人往青州田楷处求救。若二处军马齐来，操必退兵矣。”谦从之，遂写书2封。
On that day, he proposed a plan. I would like to go to Beihai County in person to ask Kong Rong to raise troops for rescue. I even got someone to go to Tian Kai in Qingzhou to ask for help. If the troops from both places come together, Cao Cao will retreat. He obeyed humbly and wrote 2 letters.
问帐下谁人敢去青州求救一人，应声愿往。众视之，乃广陵人，姓陈，名登，字元龙。陶谦先打发陈元龙往青州去气，然后命糜竺基叔赴北海。
When I asked who among my men dared to go to Qingzhou for help, one of them agreed to go. As everyone sees it, he is from Guangling. His surname is Chen, his given name is Deng, and his courtesy name is Yuanlong. Tao Qian first sent Shen Yuanlong to Qingzhou, and then ordered Mi Zhu to go to Beihai with a letter.
"自己率众守城，以备攻击。却说北海孔融，字文举，鲁国曲阜人也。孔子20世孙，泰山都尉孔宙之子。自小聪明，年10岁时。
He led his troops to defend the city in preparation for attack. But it is said that Kong Rong of Beihai, named Wenju, was a native of Tsufu in the state of Lu. He was the 20th grandson of Confucius and the son of Kong Zhou, the captain of Mount Tai. I have been smart since I was a child, and when I was 10 years old.
往夜河南尹李英，昏人难知。荣曰：“我系李相通家。”即入见，应问曰：“汝祖与吾祖何亲？”荣曰：“昔孔子曾问礼于老子。”
When he went to visit Yinli in Hunan province, it was difficult for him. Rong said, "I am from the family of Li Xiangtong." When he came to see him, Ying asked, "How are your ancestors related to my ancestors?" Rong said, "In the past, Confucius once asked about etiquette in you." Lao Tzu.
荣与君岂非累世通家，应大齐之。少请太中大夫陈伟志。应指荣曰：“此其同也。”伟曰：“小时聪明，大时未必聪明。”荣即应声曰：
Isn't it true that Rong Yujun is a great wonder that has been passed down through generations? After a while, Taizhong Dr. Chen Wei arrived. Ying pointed to Rong and said, "This is a strange boy." Wei said, "You are smart when you are young, but you may not be smart when you are old." Rong responded and said,
"如君所言，幼时必聪明者。”韦等皆笑曰：“此子长成，必当代之伟器也。”自此得名。后为中郎将，累迁北海太守。极好宾客，常曰：
"As you said, you must be smart when you are young." Wei and others laughed and said, "When this boy grows up, He will be a great weapon of the contemporary generation. From then on, he got his name. Later he was promoted to General of Zhonglang, and later moved to Beihai Prefecture. A very good guest always says.
座上客常满樽中酒不空，无之怨也。在北海6年，甚得民心。当日正与客坐，人报徐州糜竺至，荣请入见，问其来意，逐出陶签书，言
The guests are always full and the wine bottles are never empty. This is my wish. He stayed in Beihai for 6 years and won the hearts of the people. That day, while I was sitting with a guest, someone announced the arrival of Mi Zhu from Shuzhou. Rong invited him in and asked about his purpose. Zhu wrote a letter from Tao Qian, saying,
曹操恭维，甚急望明公垂救。荣曰：吾与陶公祖交厚，子仲又亲到此，如何不去？只是曹孟德与我无仇，当先遣人送书谢和。如其不从，
Cao Cao is under siege and is very anxious to see Duke Ming come to his rescue. Rong said, I have a good relationship with Tao Gongzu, and Zizhong is here personally, why not go? It's just that Chao Mengda has no enmity with me, so he should send someone in advance to send a letter to reconcile. As it is disobey.
然后起兵逐曰：曹操倚仗兵威，绝不肯和。荣交一面点兵，一面差人送书。正商议间，忽报黄巾贼党管亥部领群寇数万杀奔前来。孔融大惊。
Then he raised his troops and said to Zhu, Cao Cao relies on the power of his troops and will never make peace. Rongjiao ordered troops and sent people to deliver letters. During the discussion, it was suddenly reported that the Yellow Turban Bandit Party Guanhebu led tens of thousands of bandits to rush forward to kill them. Kong Rong was shocked.
即点本部人马出城与贼迎战。管亥出马曰：吾知北海两广，可借1万石，即便退兵；不然，打破城池，老幼不留。孔融叱曰：
Hurry and get your troops out of the city to fight the thieves. Guanhai came out and said, I know Beihai has a lot of food. I can borrow 10,000 stones, even if I withdraw my troops. Otherwise, I will destroy the city and leave no one behind, old or young. Kong Rong scolded.
吾乃大汉之臣守大汉之地，岂有良米与贼也？管亥大怒，拍马舞刀，直取孔融。融将宗保挺枪出马，战不数合，被管亥一刀砍宗保于马下。
I am a minister of the Han dynasty guarding the land of the Han dynasty. How can there be grain and thieves? Guanhai was furious. He slapped his horse and wielded his sword, and attacked Kong Rong. With one knife, Zhong Bao was struck under the horse.
孔融兵大乱，奔入城中。管亥分兵四面围城，孔融心中郁闷，糜竺怀愁，更不可言。次日，孔融登城遥望，贼势浩大，被添忧恼。
Kong Rong's soldiers rushed into the city in chaos. Guan Hai divided his troops and besieged the city on all sides. Kong Rong was depressed. Mi Zhu is sad, which is even more indescribable. The next day, Kong Rong went to the city and looked in the distance. He saw that the thieves were powerful, which made him even more worried.
忽见城外一人挺枪跃马，杀入贼阵，左冲右突，如入无人之境，直到城下，大叫开门。孔融不识其人，不敢开门。贼众赶到壕边。
Suddenly, I saw a man outside the city, with a gun drawn and a horse leaping into the bandit formation, rushing left and right, as if entering a deserted place, until he reached the bottom of the city and shouted, "Open the door." Kong Rong didn't know who he was and didn't dare to open the door. The thieves rushed to the trench.
那人回身，连数十数人下马，贼众倒退，融急命开门引入。其人下马弃枪，径到城上拜见孔融。融问其姓名，对曰：“某东莱黄县人也，复姓太史。”
The man turned around and knocked a dozen people off their horses, and the thieves retreated, and Rong hurriedly opened the door to introduce them. The man dismounted his horse and abandoned his gun, and walked directly to the city to pay homage to Kong Rong. Rong asked his name and replied, "A certain person from Huang County, Dong Lai, whose surname is Taisher."
名词字子义，老母重蒙恩顾。某昨自辽东回家省亲，知贼寇城。老母说：“屡受辅君深恩，汝当往救。”某故单马而来。孔融大喜。
His name is Ci and his courtesy name is Zi. My mother is greatly favored. A certain person came home from Liaodong yesterday to visit his relatives and found out that thieves invaded the city. The old mother said, "You have been deeply favored by the emperor many times, so you should go and save me." He came on a single horse for a certain reason. Kong Rong was overjoyed.
原来孔融与太史慈虽未识面，却晓得他是个英雄。因他远出，有老母住在离城20里之外，融常使人以素帛，母感荣德，故特使慈来救。
It turns out that although Kong Rong and Taisher Ci did not meet each other, they knew that he was a hero. Because he was far away, there was an old mother who lived 20 miles away from the city. Rome often sent people to leave grain and silk. Her mother felt Rome's virtue, so she sent Ci to rescue him.
当下孔融重待，太史慈赠与衣甲鞍马。赐曰：“某愿借精兵1000，出城杀贼。”融曰：“君虽英勇，然贼势甚盛，不可轻出。”赐曰
At that time, Kong Rong treated Taisher Ci as a gift of clothes, armor, pommel, and horse. Ci said, "I would like to borrow 1,000 elite soldiers to go out of the city to kill the thieves." Rong said, "Although you are brave, the thieves are very powerful, so we should not go out lightly." Ci said,
老母感君厚德特遣此来，如不能解围，此亦无颜见母矣。愿决一死战。”融曰：“吾闻刘玄德乃当世英雄，若请得他来相救，此为自解。”
My mother is grateful for your kindness and sent Ci here. If I can't save the siege, Ci will not be able to see my mother. I am willing to fight to the death. Rong said, "I heard that Lu Xuanda is a hero of the world. If we can ask him to come to the rescue, the siege will be solved by itself."
只无人可使尔。辞曰：“辅君修书，某当即往。”融喜，修书复辞，辞换甲上马，腰带弓矢，手持铁枪，宝石严装，城门开处，意气飞出。晋豪
There is no one who can make Ursai say, "The Lord is repairing the book, so I must go there urgently." Rongshi repaired the book to pay Ci. Ci put on his armor and mounted his horse, belted a bow and arrow, held an iron gun, was well fed and well dressed. The city gate opened, a ride out. Near the trench.
贼将率众来战，慈连硕死数人，透围而出。管亥知有人出城，料必是请救兵的，便自引数百骑赶来，八面为定。慈以铸枪、拈弓搭箭，八面射之。
The thieves led the crowd to fight Cilian, stabbing several people to death before breaking through the siege. Guanhai knew that someone was leaving the city and he must be asking for reinforcements, so he led hundreds of horsemen to come and surrounded him from all sides. Ci leaned on the spear, picked up the bow and arrows, and shot them from all directions.
无不应弦落马，贼众不敢来追。太史慈得托，星夜投平原来见刘玄德。事礼罢，具言恐北海被为求救之事，呈上书札。玄德看毕，问慈曰：
All the thieves who fell off the horse did not dare to pursue him. Taisher Ci was able to escape and threw himself into the plain at starry night to see Lu Xuanda. After saluting, he submitted a letter detailing the situation in which Kong Beihai was besieged and asked for help. After Xuanda looked at it, he asked CI.
"足下何人辞曰：某太史慈，东海之鄙人也。与孔融亲非骨肉，彼非相党，特以气相投，有分忧共患之意。今管亥暴乱，北海被围。"
Who is CI at my feet? He said, a certain Taisher CI is from the East China Sea. We are not close to Kong Rong by flesh and blood, and we are not close to each other by our hometown party. We are particularly congenial in our friendship and share our worries and woes. Today there is a riot in Guanhai and Beihai is besieged.